muscle from bone. Except that the only girl in the world, was clinging to her seat with both hands, staring at me, her eyes still wide and utterly trusting. Vengeance would have to wait. Put on your seatbelt, I ordered. My voice was rough with the hate and bloodlust. Not the usual bloodlust. I would not sully myself by taking any part of that man inside me. She locked the seatbelt into place, jumping slightly at the sound it made. That little sound made her jump. Yet she did not flinch as I tore through the town, ignoring all traffic guides. I could feel her eyes on me. She seemed oddly relaxed. It didn't make sense to me, not with what she'd just been through. Are you okay? She asked, her voice rough with stress and fear. She wanted to know if I was okay. 2008 Stephanie Meyer, 173. 174. I thought about her question for a fraction of a second. Not long enough for her to notice the hesitation. Was I okay? No, I realized, and my tone seethed with rage. I took her to the same unused drive where I'd spent the afternoon engaged in the poorest surveillance ever kept. It was black now under the trees. I was so furious that my body froze in place there, utterly motionless. My ice-locked hands ached to crush her attacker, to grind him into pieces so mangled that his body could never be identified. But that would entail leaving her here alone, unprotected in the dark night. Bella, I asked through my teeth. Yes, she responded huskily. She cleared her throat. Are you all right? That was really the most important thing, the first priority. Retribution was secondary. I knew that, but my body was so filled with rage that it was hard to think. Yes, her voice was still thick with fear, no doubt. And so I could not leave her. Even if she wasn't at constant risk for some infuriating reason, some joke the universe was playing on me, even if I could be sure that she would be perfectly safe in my absence. I could not leave her alone in the dark. She must be so frightened. Yet I was in no condition to comfort her, even if I knew exactly how that was to be accomplished, which I did not. Surely she could feel the brutality radiating out of me, surely that much was obvious. I would frighten her even more if I could not calm the lust for slaughter boiling inside me. I needed to think about something else. Distract me, please, I pleaded. I am sorry, what? I barely had enough control to try to explain what I needed. Just prattle about something unimportant until I calm down, I instructed, my jaw still locked. Only the fact that she needed me held me inside the car. I could hear the 2008 Stephanie Meyer man's thoughts, his disappointment and anger. I knew where to find him. I closed my eyes, wishing that I didn't see anyway. She hesitated, trying to make sense of my request. I imagined, I am going to run over Tyler Crowley tomorrow before school. She said this like it was a question. Yes, this was what I needed. Of course Bella would come up with something unexpected. Like it had been before, the threat of violence coming through her lips was hilarious, so comical it was jarring. If I had not been burning with the urge to kill, I would have laughed. Why? I barked out, to force her to speak again. He's telling everyone that he's taking me to prom. She said, her voice filled with her tiger kitten outrage. Either he's insane or he's still trying to make up for almost killing me last, well, you remember it. She inserted dryly. And he thinks prom is somehow the correct way to do this. So I figure if I endanger his life, then we re-even, and he can keep trying to make amends. I don't need enemies, and maybe Lauren would back off if he left me alone. I might have to total his Sentra, though. She went on, thoughtful now. If he doesn't have a ride, he can take anyone to prom. It was encouraging to see that she sometimes got things wrong. Tyler's persistence had nothing to do with the accident. She didn't seem to understand the appeal she held for the human boys at the high school. Did she not see the appeal she had for me, either? It was working. The baffling processes of her mind were always engrossing. I was beginning to gain control of myself, to see something beyond vengeance and torture. I heard about that. I told her. She had stopped talking, and I needed her to continue. You did? She asked incredulously. And then her voice was angrier than before. If he's paralyzed from the neck down, he can't go to the prom either. I wished there was some way I could ask her to continue with the threats of death and bodily harm without sounding insane. She didn't have picked a better way to. 2008 Stephanie Meyer, 175. 176, calm me. And her words just sarcasm in her case, hyperbole were a reminder I dearly needed in this moment. I sighed, and opened my eyes. Better? She asked timidly. Not really, no. I was calmer, but not better. Because I'd just realized that I could not kill the monster named Lonnie, and I still wanted that more than almost anything else in the world. Almost. The only thing in this moment that I wanted more than to commit a highly justifiable murder, was this girl. And, though I couldn't have her. Just the dream of having her made it impossible for me to go on a killing spree tonight, no matter how defensible such a thing might be. Bella deserved better than a killer. I'd spent 7 decades trying to be something other than that, anything other than a killer. Those years of effort could never make me worthy of the girl sitting beside me. And yet, I felt that if I returned to that life, the life of a killer, for even one night, I would surely put her out of my reach forever. Even if I didn't drink their blood, even if I didn't have that evidence blazing red in my eyes, wouldn't she sense the difference? I was trying to be good enough for her. It was an impossible goal. I would keep trying. What's wrong? She whispered. Her breath filled my nose, and I was reminded why I could not deserve her. After all of this, even with as much as I loved her, she still made my mouth water. I would give her as much honesty as I could. I owed her that. Sometimes I have a problem with my temper. Bella, I stared out into the black night, wishing both that she would hear the horror inherent in my words and also that she would not. Mostly that she would not. Run, Bella, run. Stay. Bella, stay. But it wouldn't be helpful for me to turn around and hunt down those. Just thinking about it almost pulled me from the car. I took a deep breath, letting her scent scorch down my throat. At least, that's what I am trying to convince myself. Oh, 2008 Stephanie Meyer. She said nothing else. How much had she heard in my words? I glanced at her furtively, but her face was unreadable. Blank with shock, perhaps. Well, she wasn't screaming. Not yet. It was quiet for a moment. I warred with myself, trying to be what I should be. What I couldn't be. Jessica and Angela will be worried, she said quietly. Her voice was very calm, and I was not sure how that could be. Was she in shock? Maybe tonight's events hadn't sunk in for her yet. I was supposed to meet them. Did she want to be away from me? Or was she just worried about her friend's worry? I didn't answer her, but I started the car and took her back. Every inch closer I got to the town, the harder it was to hold on to my purpose. I was just so close to him. If it was impossible, if I could never have nor deserve this girl, then where was the sense in letting the man go unpunished? Surely I could allow myself that much. No. I wasn't giving up. Not yet. I wanted her too much to surrender. We were at the restaurant where she was supposed to meet her friends before I'd even begun to make sense of my thoughts. Jessica and Angela were finished eating, and both now truly worried about Bella. They were on their way to search for her, heading off along the dark street. It was not a good night for them to be wandering. How did you know where? Bella's unfinished question interrupted me, and I realized that I had made yet another gaffe. I'd been too distracted to remember to ask her where she was supposed to meet her friends. But, instead of finishing the inquiry and pressing the point, Bella just shook her head and half smiled. What did that mean? Well, I didn't have time to puzzle over her strange acceptance of my stranger knowledge. I opened my door. What are you doing? She asked, sounding startled. Not letting you out of my sight. Not allowing myself to be alone tonight. In that order. I am taking you to dinner. 2008 Stephanie Meyer, 177. 178. Well, this should be interesting. It seemed like another night entirely when I'd imagined bringing Alice along and pretending to choose the same restaurant as Bella and her friends by accident. And now, here I was, practically on a date with the girl. Only it didn't count, because I wasn't giving her a chance to say no. She already had her door half open before I'd walked around the car. It wasn't usually so frustrating to have to move at an inconspicuous speed instead of waiting for me to get it for her. Was this because she wasn't used to being treated like a lady, or because she didn't think of me as a gentleman? I waited for her to join me, getting more anxious as her girlfriends continued in toward the dark corner. Go stop Jessica and Angela before I have to track them down, too. I ordered quickly. I don't think I could restrain myself if I ran into your other friends again. No, I would not be strong enough for that. She shuddered, and then quickly collected herself. She took half a step after them, calling, Jess. Angela, in a loud voice. They turned, and she waved her arm over her head to catch their attention. Bella. Oh, she is safe. Angela thought with relief. Late much. Jessica grumbled to herself, but she, too, was thankful that Bella wasn't lost or hurt. This made me like her a little more than I had. They hurried back, and then stopped, shocked, when they saw me beside her. Jess thought, stunned. No freaking way. Edward Cullen. Did she go away by herself to find him? But why would she ask about them being out of town if she knew he was here? I got a brief flash of Bella's mortified expression when she asked Angela if my family was often absent from school. No, she couldn't have known. Angela decided. Jessica's thoughts were moving past the surprise and on to suspicion. Bella's been holding out on me. Where have you been? She demanded, staring at Bella, but peeking at me from the corner of her eye. I got lost. And then I ran into Edward, Bella said, waving one hand toward me. Her tone was remarkably normal. Like that was truly all that had happened. 2008 Stephanie Meyer. She must be in shock. That was the only explanation for her calm. Would it be all right if I joined you? I asked to be polite. I knew that they'd already eaten. Holy crap, but he is hot. Jessica thought, her head suddenly slightly incoherent. Angela wasn't much more composed. Wish we hadn't eaten. Wow. Just. Wow. Now why didn't I do that to Bella, sure, Jessica agreed. Angela frowned. Actually. Bella, we already ate while we were waiting. She admitted. Sorry, what? Shut up. Jess complained internally. Bella shrugged casually. So at ease. Definitely in shock. That's fine, I am not hungry, I think you should eat something. I disagreed. She needed sugar in her bloodstream, though it smelled sweet enough as it was. I thought wryly. The horror was going to come crashing down on her momentarily, and an empty stomach wouldn't help. She was an easy fainter, as I knew from experience. These girls wouldn't be in any danger if they went straight home. Danger didn't stalk their every step. And I'd rather be alone with Bella as long as she was willing to be alone with me. Do you mind if I drive Bella home tonight? I said to Jessica before Bella could respond. That way you won't have to wait while she eats. No problem. I guess. Jessica stared intently at Bella, looking for some sign that this was what she wanted. I want to stay. But she probably wants him to herself. Who wouldn't? Jess thought. At the same time, she watched Bella wink. Bella winked. Okay, Angela said quickly, in a hurry to be out of the way if that was what Bella wanted. And it seemed that she did want that. See you tomorrow. Bella, Edward, she struggled to say my name in a casual tone. Then she grabbed Jessica's hand and began towing her away. 2008 Stephanie Meyer, 179. 180. I would have to find some way to thank Angela for this. Jessica's car was close by and in a bright circle of light cast by a street lamp. Bella watched them carefully, a little crease of concern between her eyes, until they were in the car, so she must be fully aware of the danger she'd been in. Jessica waved as she drove away, and Bella waved back. It wasn't until the car disappeared that she took a deep breath and turned to look up at me. Honestly, I am not hungry, she said. Why had she waited for them to be gone before speaking? Did she truly want to be alone with me even now, after witnessing my homicidal rage? Whether that was the case or not, she was going to eat something. Humor me, I said. I held the restaurant door open for her and waited. She sighed, and walked through. I walked beside her to the podium where the hostess waited. Bella still seemed entirely self-possessed. I wanted to touch her hand, her forehead, to check her temperature. But my cold hand would repulse her, as it had before. Oh, my, the hostess's rather loud mental voice intruded into my consciousness. My, oh my. It seemed to be my night to turn heads. Or was I only noticing it more because I wished so much that Bella would see me this way? We were always attractive to our prey. I'd never thought so much about it before. Usually, unless, as with people like Shelley Cope and Jessica Stanley, there was constant repetition to dull the horror, the fear kicked in fairly quickly after the initial attraction. A table for two. I prompted when the hostess didn't speak. Oh, yes. Welcome to La Bella Italia, What a voice. Please follow me. Her thoughts were preoccupied, calculating. Maybe she's his cousin. She could dnt be his sister, they don't look anything alike. But family. Definitely. He can be with her. Human eyes were clouded, they saw nothing clearly. How could this small-minded woman find my physical lures, snares for prey so attractive, and yet be unable to see the soft perfection of the girl beside me? 2008 Stephanie Meyer. Well, no need to help her out. Just in case, the hostess thought as she led us to a family-sized table in the middle of the most crowded part of the restaurant. Can I give him my number while she's there, she mused. I pulled a bill from my back pocket. People were invariably cooperative when money was involved. Bella was already taking the seat the hostess indicated without objection. I shook my head at her, and she hesitated, cocking her head to one side with curiosity. Yes, she would be very curious tonight. A crowd was not the ideal place for this conversation. Perhaps something more private. I requested of the hostess, handing her the money. Her eyes widened in surprise, and then narrowed while her hand curled around the tip. Sure, she peeked at the bill while she led us around a dividing wall. $50 for a better table. Rich, too. That makes sense. I bet his jacket cost more than my last paycheck. Damn. Why does he want privacy with her? She offered us a booth in a quiet corner of the restaurant where no one would be able to see us, to see Bella's reactions to whatever I would tell her. I had no clue as to what she would want from me tonight. Or what I would give her. How much had she guessed? What explanation of tonight's events had she told herself? How's this? The hostess asked. Perfect, I told her, and, feeling slightly annoyed by her resentful attitude toward Bella, I smiled widely at her, baring my teeth. Let her see me clearly. Whoa, your server will be right out. He can be real. I must be asleep. Maybe she'll disappear. Maybe I'll write my number on his plate with ketchup. She wandered away, listing slightly to the side. Odd. She still wasn't frightened. I suddenly remembered Emmett teasing me in the cafeteria, so many weeks ago. I'll bet I could have scared her better than that. Was I losing my edge? You really shouldn't do that to people. Bella interrupted my thoughts in a disapproving tone. It's hardly fair. 2008 Stephanie Meyer, 181. 182. I stared at her critical expression. What did she mean? I hadn't frightened the hostess at all, despite my intentions. Do what? Dazzle them like that? She's probably hyperventilating in the kitchen right now. Bella was very nearly right. The hostess was only semi-coherent at the moment, describing her incorrect assessment of me to her friend on the waitstaff. Oh, come on. Bella chided me when I didn't answer immediately. You have to know the effect you have on people. I dazzle people. That was an interesting way of phrasing it. Accurate enough for tonight. I wondered why the difference. You haven't noticed? She asked, still critical. Do you think everybody gets their way so easily? Do I dazzle you? I voiced my curiosity impulsively, and then the words were out, and it was too late to recall them. But before I had time to too deeply regret speaking the words aloud, she answered. Frequently, and her cheeks took on a faint pink glow. I dazzled her. My silent heart swelled with a hope more intense than I could ever remember having felt before. Hello, someone said. The waitress, introducing herself. Her thoughts were loud, and more explicit than the hostess's, but I tuned her out. I stared at Bella's face instead of listening, watching the blood spreading under her skin. Noticing not how that made my throat flame, but rather how it brightened her fair face, how it set off the cream of her skin. The waitress was waiting for something from me. She asked for our drink order. I continued to stare at Bella, and the waitress grudgingly turned to look at her, too. I'll have a Coke. Bella said, as if asking for approval. 2 Cokes. I amended. Thirst. Normal, human thirst was a sign of shock. I would make sure she had the extra sugar from the soda in her system. She looked healthy, though. More than healthy. She looked radiant. 2008 Stephanie Meyer, what? She demanded, wondering why I was staring. I guessed. I was vaguely aware that the waitress had left. How are you feeling? I asked. She blinked, surprised by the question. I am fine. You don't feel dizzy, sick, cold? She was even more confused now. Should I? Well, I am waiting for you to go into shock. I half smiled, expecting her denial. She would not want to be taken care of. It took her a minute to answer me. Her eyes were slightly unfocused. She looked that way sometimes, when I smiled at her. Was she dazzled? I would love to believe that. I don't think that will happen. I've always been very good at repressing unpleasant things. She answered, a little breathless. Did she have a lot of practice with unpleasant things, then? Was her life always this hazardous? Just the same. I told her. I'll feel better when you have some sugar and food in you. The waitress returned with the cokes and a basket of bread. She put them in front of me, and asked for my order. Trying to catch my eye in the process. I indicated that she should attend to Bella, and then went back to tuning her out. She had a vulgar mind. Bella glanced quickly at the menu. I'll have the mushroom ravioli. The waitress turned back to me eagerly. And you, nothing for me. Bella made a slight face. She must have noticed that I never ate food. She noticed everything. And I always forgot to be careful around her. I waited till we were alone again. Drink, I insisted. I was surprised when she complied immediately and without objection. She drank until the glass was entirely empty, so I pushed the second Coke toward her, frowning a little. Thirst, or shock? She drank a little more, and then shuddered once. 2008 Stephanie Meyer, 183. 184, are you cold? It's just the Coke. She said, but she shivered again, her lips trembling slightly as if her teeth were about to chatter. The pretty blouse she wore looked too thin to protect her adequately, it clung to her like a second skin, almost as fragile as the first. She was so frail, so mortal. Don't you have a jacket? Yes, she looked around herself, a little perplexed. Oh, I left it in Jessica's car. I pulled off my jacket, wishing that the gesture was not marred by my body temperature. It would have been nice to have been able to offer her a warm coat. She stared at me, her cheeks warming again. What was she thinking now? I handed her the jacket across the table, and she put it on at once, and then shuddered again. Yes, it would be very nice to be warm. Thanks, she said. She took a deep breath, and then pushed the two long sleeves back to free her hands. She took another deep breath. Was the evening finally settling in? Her color was still good, her skin was cream and roses against the deep blue of her shirt. That color blue looks lovely with your skin. I complimented her. Just being honest. She flushed, enhancing the effect. She looked well, but there was no point in taking chances. I pushed the basket of bread toward her. Really, she objected, guessing my motives. I am not going into shock, you should be a normal person would be. You don't even look shaken. I stared at her, disapproving, wondering why she couldn't be normal and then wondering if really wanted her to be that way. I feel very safe with you. She said, her eyes, again, filled with trust. Trust I didn't deserve. 2008 Stephanie Meyer. Her instincts were all wrong backwards. That must be the problem. She didn't recognize danger the way a human being should be able to. She had the opposite reaction. Instead of running, she lingered. Drawn to what should frighten her. How could I protect her from myself when neither of us wanted that? This is more complicated than I'd planned. I murmured. I could see her turning my words over in her head, and I wondered what she made of them. She took a breadstick and began to eat without seeming aware of the action. She chewed for a moment, and then leaned her head to one side thoughtfully. Usually you're in a better mood when your eyes are so light. She said in a casual tone. Her observation, stated so matter-of-factly, left me reeling. What, you always crabbier when your eyes are black? I expect it then. I have a theory about that. She added lightly. So she had come up with her own explanation. Of course she had. I felt a deep sense of dread as I wondered how close she'd come to the truth. More theories, she chewed on another bite, entirely nonchalant. As if she weren't discussing the aspects of a monster with the monster himself. I hope you were more creative this time. I lied when she didn't continue. What I really hoped was that she was wrong miles wide of the mark. Or are you still stealing from comic books? Well, no, I didn't get it from a comic book. She said, a little embarrassed. But I didn't come up with it on my own, either, and, I asked between my teeth. Surely she would not speak so calmly if she were about to scream. As she hesitated, biting her lip, the waitress reappeared with Bella's food. I paid the server little attention as she set the plate in front of Bella and then asked if I wanted anything. I declined, but asked for more Coke. The waitress hadn't noticed the empty glasses. She took them and left. You were saying? I prompted anxiously as soon as we were alone again. 2008 Stephanie Meyer, 185. 186, I'll tell you about it in the car. She said in a low voice. Ah, this would be bad. She wasn't willing to speak her guesses around others. If, she tacked on suddenly. There are conditions. I was so tense I almost growled the words. I do have a few questions, of course, of course. I agreed, my voice hard. Her questions would probably be enough to tell me where her thoughts were heading. But how would I answer them? With responsible lies? Or would I drive her away with truth? Or would I say nothing, unable to decide? We sat in silence while the waitress replenished her supply of soda. Well, go ahead. I said, jaw locked, when she was gone. Why are you in Port Angeles? That was too easy a question for her. It gave away nothing, while my answer, if truthful, would give away much too much. Let her reveal something first. Next. I said. But that's the easiest one. Next, I said again. She was frustrated by my refusal. She looked away from me. Down to her food. Slowly, thinking hard, she took a bite and chewed with deliberation. She washed it down with more Coke, and then finally looked up at me. Her eyes were narrow with suspicion. Okay then, she said. Let us say, hypothetically, of course. That someone could know what people are thinking, read minds, you know, with just a few exceptions. It could be worse. This explained that little half-smile in the car. She was quick. No one else had ever guessed this about me. Except for Carlyle, and it had been rather obvious then, in the beginning, when I'd answered all his thoughts as if he'd spoken them to me. He'd understood before I had. This question wasn't so bad. While it was clear that she knew that there was something wrong with me, was not as serious as it could have been. Mind reading was, after all, not a facet of the vampire canon. I went along with her hypothesis. Just one exception. I corrected. Hypothetically, 2008 Stephanie Meyer. She fought a smile. My vague honesty pleased her. All right, with one exception, then. How does that work? What are the limitations? How would that someone find someone else at exactly the right time? How would he know that she was in trouble? Hypothetically, sure, her lips twitched, and her liquid brown eyes were eager. Well, I hesitated. If that someone, let us call him Joe, she suggested. I had to smile at her enthusiasm. Did she really think the truth would be a good thing? If my secrets were pleasant, why would I keep them from her? Joe, then. I agreed. If Joe had been paying attention, the timing wouldn't have needed to be quite so exact. I shook my head and repressed a shudder at the thought of how close I had been to being too late today. Only you could get into trouble in a town this small. You would have devastated their crime rate statistics for a decade, you know. Her lips turned down at the corners, and pouted out. We were speaking of a hypothetical case. I laughed at her irritation. Her lips, her skin. They looked so soft. I wanted to touch them. I wanted to press my fingertip against the corner of her frown and turn it up. Impossible. My skin would be repellent to her. Yes, we were. I said, returning to the conversation before I could depress myself too thoroughly. Shall we call you Jane? She leaned across the table toward me, all humor and irritation gone from her wide eyes. How did you know? She asked, her voice low and intense. Should I tell her the truth? And, if so, what portion? I wanted to tell her. I wanted to deserve the trust I could still see on her face. You can trust me, you know. She whispered, and she reached one hand forward, as if to touch my hands where they rested on top of the empty table before me. 2008 Stephanie Meyer, 187. 188. I pulled them back, hating the thought of her reaction to my frigid stone skin, and she dropped her hand. I knew that I could trust her with protecting my secrets. She was entirely trustworthy, good to the core. But I couldn't trust her not to be horrified by them. She should be horrified. The truth was horror. I don't know if I have a choice anymore. I murmured. I remembered that I'd once teased her by calling her exceptionally unobservant. Offended her, if I'd been judging her expressions correctly. Well, I could right that one injustice, at least. I was wrong, you're much more observant than I gave you credit for. And, though she might not realize it, I'd given her plenty of credit already. She missed nothing. I thought you were always right, she said, smiling as she teased me. I used to be. I used to know what I was doing. I used to be always sure of my course. And now everything was chaos and tumult. Yet I wouldn't trade it. I didn't want the life that made sense. Not if the chaos meant that I could be with Bella. I was wrong about you on one other thing as well. I went on, setting the record straight on another point. You're not a magnet for accidents, that's not a broad enough classification. You are a magnet for trouble. If there is anything dangerous within a 10-mile radius, it will invariably find you. Why her? What had she done to deserve any of this? Bella's face turned serious again. And you put yourself into that category. Honesty was more important in regards to this question than any other. Unequivocally. Her eyes narrowed slightly, not suspicious now, but oddly concerned. She reached her hand across the table again, slowly and deliberately. I pulled my hands an inch away from her, but she ignored that, determined to touch me. I held my breath, not because of her scent now, but because of the sudden, overwhelming tension. Fear. My skin would disgust her. She would run away. She brushed her fingertips lightly across the back of my hand. The heat of her gentle,